Welcome to Banking Frontiers. This is Manoj Agrawal, Group Editor. Today I'm here with a very interesting guest, Mr. Anil Shah. He's the Chief Executive Officer of Nabil Bank, which is one of the leading banks in Nepal. Today we'll talk to him about the digital transformation happening in his company and then to some extent in his country as well. And that should give us some insights for our readers and viewers, because digital transformation is something that's happening at a very global scale and at a very rapid scale. So it's good to know what's happening in different parts of the world. So Anil, welcome to Banking Frontiers.
Thank you very much. Namaste, and thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you and share some of what's happening here and learn a little bit about what's happening there, I'm sure.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yes. So Anil, if you can begin by describing to us what has been the impact of coronavirus in your bank on the operations, day-to-day operations, as well as the customer segments. Which customer segments are most affected, which are least affected? So at least we'll have the broad picture to begin with.
This has been really interesting, I think, for all banks around the world and definitely for banks in Nepal, because we all had our BCPs, we had our DR plans, we had a host of contingency plans, but then we never imagined a situation where all the infrastructure would be perfectly fine and the problem would be human. We were ready for earthquake, we were ready for terrorists, we were ready for fire, we were ready for flood, we were ready for everything. You know, if our data center went down, we had a backup data center in another place, everything was perfectly fine. But we never had a plan where all that was perfectly fine and working 100%, but the people were at fault. And all the people were at fault. And that's exactly what happened here. And that's why I think we all had to scramble very fast to figure out what's going on and how do we deal with this? Because it wasn't that my system was down or my building was burning, but it was just that I couldn't get there and get to work. So internally, first of all, when the lockdown happened in Nepal, like it did in India as well, we had to figure out how do we start our operations without putting our team at risk. Because at that time we knew even less, not that we know a lot more about the virus now, but even then we knew even less about it. So we didn't know how actually to do it. So we divided everyone up into different shifts, especially the critical people like the Swift team, the IT team, and critical teams were divided up so they could never meet and they could not contaminate each other. And then we first had to also get the monoball, as we call it, the confidence of the staff up. Because people who didn't want to come to work, they were like, we are not doctors or nurses, we're not in the police or army. Why do we have to go to work? So we have to remind everyone that we are an essential service in banking. And Nabil Bank and no bank in Nepal shut even for one day. We were able to be operational throughout the lockdown, physically, not only in terms of the technology and so on and so forth, but physically we were up and working, which means our branches were open. So we had a lot of issues in trying to get the people to the branches because the government had locked down and were not allowing us to move around. And while doctors could just show their ID card and move or put a big H or a cross sign, we couldn't put a rupee sign on our car window and drive and say we are bankers. They would throw us in jail. We did that. So the host of unique challenges came forth. But what I'm really glad is Nabil Banks, the team at Nabil Bank and team at most of the banks were able to cope with it because we had this positive attitude that we have to do it. Because if you think about it right now, in India as well, while the numbers are very large, much larger than in Nepal, but a very small percentage of the total population has had to go to a hospital or a health post or a doctor. But a majority of the population, 100% I would say, in some way or the other, have had to use some sort of financial service, whether it be online, on the internet, and mobile. So while if everything worked and the banking sector had shut down, the crisis would have become an emergency, a real emergency. But then because in Nepal also Nabil Bank stayed open, first few days we found people taking a lot of money out because they didn't know what would happen. We need money to survive. But then when they saw the ATMs are working, my mobile app is working, the branch is open, forget all this. So ever since then, after the first week, we have had an exponential increase in deposits. And right now, if you look at the CCD, it is unaffordably low at this point of time because obviously there's been no loan uptake, but then the deposits have all been coming in. And also there's been nowhere to save. So whatever income has been coming has been going into the accounts and just staying in the accounts. So first we had to deal with the internal of actually having new BCPs, new DR plans in which we work at home, secure environments to work at home. We use Microsoft, so Microsoft Teams, and you using that for meetings all over the place. It was a bit of a run in the beginning, but then it stabilized, and then we started to see some direction. And then we started to see some value internally as well. So utilize this 90 days of lockdown or so, I think we have done the most amount of training that we've done. We wouldn't do this much training in a year maybe, that we've managed to do it, and at a fraction of a cost. Now the second comes our customers. Definitely for our customers, there is on the deposit side also, and on the loan side also, there are different issues. On the deposit side, I think the challenge for all banks worldwide is now, once the lockdown starts to ease and people start to come back into the streets, is to keep the confidence. Okay, because all we are hearing, in all we are reading, is that the economy is in shambles, the biggest companies are falling apart, people are laying off people, so on and so forth. At some point, the depositor is going to start to think, if all the loans are going bad, these banks are giving loans of my deposits. They're not printing money and giving loans. So how safe is my deposit? And if the depositor starts to think like this and then starts to come and say, let me take my deposit out right now, forget the interest, at least my principal is safe, and the depositor confidence on the financial sector starts to decrease, then we have a very, very big problem. So on the deposit side is getting the confidence. And to do that, we have to keep delivering service. Whatever service the depositor wants, whether it's the use of their credit cards, use of their mobile banking, coming to the branch and taking out money, just having a face-to-face with the branch manager to know that everything is okay. We have to continue to do that to keep the depositor confidence up. On the loan side, what we have done is we have divided the loan portfolio into three categories: red, amber, and green. On the red, we've put the industries that are really impacted badly. Amber is a majority of them, which are obviously impacted because of the lockdown, but with a little bit of relief, they could come into the green category. And green category is those who have not been affected at all. And our focus now, our financial year ends on July 15th over here in Nepal. And then a new financial year in the end of the last quarter of the financial year. So obviously this year's balance sheet and P&L will be impacted. But now our focus is not on profit so much, is on stability and on how to, we are looking at it as the bank as survival, revival, and growth. So in the short term, it's all about survival. We have a new governor, Mahaprasad Adhikari ji, who's just been appointed as governor a few months back. And as the bankers, we had gone to meet him, and he gave us what we call the Mool Mantra for banking. He said, at this time, you need to survive and your customers need to survive. That is what you need to assure, is that you survive and you ensure that your customers survive. That it is not good enough if you just survive and you continue to focus on your profits, on your dividends, on your bonuses, and then you say, okay, whatever the customer happens, doesn't matter, we will recover the loans, we will start auctioning the properties. That is not going to help you either. But if you only look at the customer and say, okay, we will do interest rebate, we will reschedule, we will restructure, customer may be happy, but you may not be healthy after all. So it is a balancing act where you need to be healthy and you need to ensure that your customers remain healthy as well. So we cannot just do a macro level and say all auto loans are green or amber or red. We have to deep dive down from auto loan to hydro loan. For a large part of our infrastructure financing is hydroelectricity, because that's power generation in Nepal. So hydroelectricity, those firms which were already producing electricity, they're green because electricity is coming, it's going to the Nepal Electricity Authority, they're being paid. But those who are in the construction phase, now if they were in the middle of the construction phase with COVID, now all their workers have gone back to wherever they came from. The electromagnetic equipment production has been delayed wherever they were getting it from. So the whole project has gone in for a bit of a toss. So they may actually be in the amber or in the red category. So this is what we've done to see in the short term how we survive, in the medium term how we revive, and in the long term how we grow.
Okay, good. I think it's a superb overview. One question that immediately comes to mind is, what kind of customers are mostly in the red zone and what kind of customers are mostly in the green zone? Is there any such trend, or it's really spread out?
Because in our economy, tourism is a very big part of the economy. From India also, many tourists come, China, from the whole world. We're on every top 10 list of countries to visit. Tourism was wonderful for us until now, because now no tourist is coming. The few that were stuck here have all gone back as well. And I don't think for 18 months to 24 months, any tourist will be coming for holiday making anywhere in the world. And also they will not be coming to Nepal. So definitely the red sector is tourism. Tourism of foreign tourists, not domestic tourists. Tourism also had two sections. One was domestic, one was foreign. For the domestic tourists, I think that will be back once we get this lockdown settled out and something happens. On the international tourists that used to come, I think that will take some time for that to happen. So on the red zone, one main area that we see is tourism that happens. On the green, we see food grain, pharmaceuticals, all medicine, All these sort of things are sort of on the green zone right now. On the amber red, which could go to green very fast, is education. So I think that is that. The other one, which you really mentioned, is what is happening with the bottom of the pyramid. You know, the daily wage
Yes.
earners, the people who have to work every day to earn. And in our case, along with that, I take the remittance. Because in India itself, we have millions of Nepalese working in India. We have hundreds of thousands of Nepalese labor working in the Middle East, in the Far East. Their work has stopped. They are all trying to come back to Nepal as well, because their income has stopped, and the countries they're in don't want them anymore. They want them to go back home to wherever they are because they want
Correct.
to be safe as well. So we are now in the precipice of what I think is the greatest challenge or the greatest opportunity for Nepal. Because once all these youth come back, if we are able to make an ecosystem and an environment where we can give them gainful employment, then we can see development in Nepal like never before. So it's not equality, but equity that we need now. Okay, this is very important. Not equality, because some people don't need any rahat at all, but some people need a lot. So we need to see equitably as to who needs what, and then give them that. And that is why I think we need a high level committee to work onto this, especially because for the bottom of the pyramid, without this, it will be very, very difficult for them. Like right now, I talk to a lot of my SME customers, and we have given them, our Nepal Rashtra Bank, Central Bank has said 2% interest reduction. Nobody has done this. Very few countries. I don't know any other country in the world which has said this. All loans, 2% reduction in interest rate. Right? Interest to be capitalized, to be restructured of the loan, EMIs to be pushed back. And then I go to the SMEs and I ask them, so we are giving you all this. Are you all right? They say, no, we're going out of business. And I say, why are you going out of business? They said, because we are on rented property and my landlord is saying it's now been 3 months. You either pay rent or get out. So whether you give me interest rebate or you capitalize my interest or restructure my loan really doesn't matter, because there's no way I can pay this rent. And not to mention these 35, 40 people I've got employed who won their salaries. I can't, because I've had no business for 90 days. Whether you're a restaurant or a small manufacturing plant or anything that you're doing, this is the problem. That's what I said. The medicine must fit the disease. The relief that we must give must be what the person needs. This person needs rent relief. Some people need relief in terms of paying salaries of their staff. Just giving interest rate rebates or relief to the finance sector is not going to cut it. The problem is not that simple, that the finance sector can solve it by giving loan rebates or anything of that sort. But
That's
if
true
we
in
all
India as
work,
well.
exactly,
That's a
it's very
complaint
true
in
in
India as well. Same thing. If we move further then to within the organization, uh, so I understand a lot of digital transformation and accelerated digital transformation is happening. Can you give us highlight of 2 or 3 major projects that have been done from which you expect some short-term benefits? And later we'll talk about the long-term projects or long-term vision.
So I think, very much like in India, in Nepal also, for the last 10, 12 years, the banks on the supply side had been providing all sorts of digital products, mobile apps, internet banking, all sorts of things. But on the demand side, there was no stimulation. People
Oh,
just weren't using, and people here used to, World Bank, IMF, all used to keep saying, give us the example of Kenya, in which an app called M-Paisa is used. M-Paisa
right.
is used by everybody, poor, young, old, everybody uses M-Paisa for everything. Why don't you have an app like that? Why doesn't Nepal do something like that? So on and so forth. So
Mhm.
we did a deep dive to see what is it about M-Paisa that is so successful that we are not being able to do in Nepal. And we found out it wasn't the app or it wasn't the people, it was crime. The crime rate is so high in Kenya
Yeah.
that people don't want money. So if you have money, people will come with a knife or a gun and take your money away. So shops don't want to do in cash; they want everything to be done digitally. So M-Paisa caught on. So while crime is the catalyst for growth of digital banking in Nepal, it is COVID and the coronavirus. Now nobody wants to come to branches. No one wants to touch cash. Everyone wants to do digitally. So these 90 days, we've seen exponential increase in digital transactions.
Okay.
So on the case Nabil Bank, what we did is first we started having companies come to us and say, look, we can't come to you, but we need to still transact. Don't you have a product for us? So we launched E at Nabil, which is a corporate banking product, whereby the companies can now sit in their offices or their homes or wherever they are, 2 or 3 signatures, whatever required electronic signatures are allowed. They can transfer money, do their payments, do payroll, vendor payments, all sorts of transactions, all through internet, which was not there in Nepal. I mean, definitely was maybe there in India and other advanced countries, but was not there in Nepal. And
Okay.
after that, we thought, okay, why don't we do something for the individual? That was for the institution. So we launched something called a Gen N account, okay? Generation Nepal for the youth. because we found a lot of youth were not in the banking net anyway, and they didn't want to come to the bank and go to the branch and open an account. So everything from account opening to electronic KYC to everything was packaged into this um, account opening. And as a sweetener, we said everybody who opens, because most of the youth now are using the internet, so we said we get 2 GB free data also. And this has been a super hit, throughout the country. Youth and non-youth also, everybody is going opening accounts, and the GenN account has been, I think, one of the biggest hit accounts that Nabil Bank has ever had. So what we found is, okay, now people are now ready for digital. It's not only the supply side, but the demand side has also been mobilized. And now if we bring out the right products, the demand is there for the uptake of the same. And that is why we started to say, okay, we're bringing out different products, a chatbot, fiber banking, this, that, but we need a cohesive strategy to move forward with this. And with keeping that in mind, we said, okay, what do we do? And we said, we need to do something differently. And if you look behind me, there's something called DigiBank. And Nabil DigiBank is some vertical that we set up within the bank itself. So we didn't set up a different bank, but within the bank itself, we set up something called Nabil DigiBank that takes care of all the digital needs of the bank at this point of time and its customers. And DigiBank has two sections. One is internal, one is external. On the internal side is all the processing, which we may be doing manually, which we may be doing non-digitally. How can we make that digital to enhance our productivity, to enhance efficiency, and more so to enhance our safety, health safety, because now we can't come together. What is it that we can do that the computer can help us do that from home or wherever we are without having to all congregate under one roof in one office? So one stream within DigiBank is the internal, and the other is the external. What is it that the customer actually wants? What is it that we can deliver? For instance, in the Nepali and the South Asian context, it's nice to have a lot of things like tap card and this and that, but the bottom of our pyramid is very large. The top is not so large. So how do we take digital to the bottom of the economic pyramid? And QR is one of the ways that we've been able to do that, that we are thinking of. So just like this ID card, suppose a vegetable vendor selling vegetables on a rickshaw or on a cycle, will have a card like this around their neck with their picture and with the QR code in the bottom. Someone will come to buy vegetables, look vegetable fruits and say, okay, it's 300 rupees. The person will take their phone, zap the QR code, the buyer's account is debited, the vegetable seller's account is credited. Whole day he would sell like this. On the way home, he goes to a little shop, a kirana pasal, where he buys his daily rations of rice, dal, oil. He pays with his phone using a QR code and takes the goods that he wants. So we want to move not to a cashless, that is a dream, to a less cash society, okay, at this point of time, whereby if we move it to the bottom of the pyramid, all our villages in India and in Nepal, we have these weekly markets in the weekend. Everybody comes with their products, with their ducks and their chicken and their vegetables and everything, and everyone gets together and people come and buy and sell things. What if people could come and buy and sell things over there using QR code instead of using cash? And the reason in Nepal it is more possible maybe than in other areas is because we have a huge diaspora in terms of our population of people working outside. And because one or two family members are working outside, most people have invested in some sort of a smartphone, okay, that is required, which is the hardware which is required for the QR code. And because they already have the hardware, they don't have to go and buy anything or nothing of the sort at all. They just download the app, open an account in the bank, and then they can use the QR code. And once they start to use it in this lockdown period, we found people who we never thought, people who are my parents, my grandparents' age even, are now starting to go digital because they feel, whatever it is, whether they want to eat a pizza or they want to order their medicine, it's all done on the phone because they feel they are most at risk. They don't want to go out anywhere. The person comes, drops it off, they leave it for 5 hours without touching it, but it's all done on the phone. And they're so happy. And they say, why didn't we do this before? But now it's not only the banks, it's a question of building the ecosystem. In India, the ecosystem is built to a large extent, not in Nepal, digitally. So we are moving towards seeing how we can move digital to the bottom of the pyramid. Because in most countries in South Asia, unless you tap the bottom of the pyramid, all your dreams will just remain dreams. To make them a reality, you must touch the bottom of the pyramid. And the digital revolution that we see, the wave we keep talking about, the wave must carry the bottom of the pyramid. And the institutions that are able to do that are the institutions that will survive. If you just buy products out of Korea, Hong Kong, Frankfurt, New York, and try to push it into our markets, you will be successful because there is an urban population that will take it, much more in India than in Nepal. But to have sustainable growth at a scalable level, you have to have products and services that hit the bottom of the pyramid.
what is the existing penetration of smartphones and how good is telecom connectivity in Nepal 3G, 4G today? Very briefly.
I think Nepal was lucky because we started late, and in technology, the later you start, the higher up in the curve you are. So I think we have two telecom operators, one government, Nepal Telecom, and then one private Ncell, and the coverage is phenomenal. You will get telecom coverage at the base camp of Mount Everest, and because of the terrain of Nepal, as you know, very mountainous and all, pulling landlines was almost impossible. But now putting put tower on the top of the biggest mountain in the area, and you've covered the entire region, whatever there is all around. So telecom is very good. And as I said, they have never, very few have actually used it for banking, but it's a small leap. If in Nepal they did a survey and they found out there are more telephones than toilets in the country. So the government has recently, in fact, put a cap saying every person can only have 2 SIM cards. You cannot have more than 2 SIM cards because people are having many of these phones and so on and so forth. So phone penetration is fabulous. So the foundation is there. We just haven't used it. It's like the gold mine is there. We just didn't dig and take any of the gold out yet. So that is why I'm saying we can reach the bottom of the pyramid. While some countries where the phone penetration isn't this high, it would be another project itself to get the telecom to the rural areas, to get the rural area people to actually buy a phone and start to use a smartphone. That would be a big challenge. In Nepal, we don't have that challenge. Yes, I still think maybe 5 to 7% will not have the required telecom coverage or hardware that they require. The majority of them will. The challenge is for us now to give them a product that they will now to put onto the phone. Right now, with the mobile app, you can pay phone bill, this, that, and all. That's very good for the urban. But for the rural and the bottom of the pyramid, who's not paying a phone bill, who's not paying a electricity bill or a water bill, those things mean nothing to them. What are you talking about? I never pay for water or anything through the water corporation. So, but I do pay for vegetables. I do pay for my child's school maybe or something of the other. We really need to see how we can do this. And the challenge, as I said, the limitation is only our innovation and our imagination, because the technology is there to support it, and the basic infrastructure that is needed in Nepal is there as well. A lot of people tell me, oh, but then what about the people who cannot read and who cannot write? We are very fortunate. Majority of the population of this country is under the age of 25. They can read and write. Yes, that again, that 5 to 7% who are the elderly who cannot read and write, there is a problem there. But let us deal with that. But concentrate on that 5 to 7%. We miss out the rest, who are the people who are under the 30 age of 25, who have gone to the Middle East, who are using this phone, and all the their banking in the Middle East or in Korea and Japan has been all on mobile, and then suddenly they come home and they find that they cannot use it. But if we give them similar level of service in Nepal, I think there will be the uptake. So personally, I see within the next 12 to 18 months, maybe 45% of Nepal will be on digital, some sort of digital financial services using through the phone or, and then it will slowly grow from there. The challenge, as I said, is for all of us to give them the products that they require.
What do you see as the future vision for digital, let's say 2-3 years down the road? Apart from all these ease of use and facilitating, do you see any kind of structural improvements happening to the economy or structural transformation taking in the economy because of digital transformation of the financial sector? Do you see financial sector playing a major role in the economy's transformation?
I definitely think so, because in most countries in our region, there is a huge informal economy, which is based on cash. Before this lockdown and this COVID, in most of South Asian countries, the informal money remittance market was very big. The money used to come through banks and remittance companies, but a similar amount used to come through informal channels, let's say.
All right.
But because of all the informal channels shut down, there was no hundi hawala because it wasn't possible, because they couldn't come in contact with each other. So the influx of remittance that came in through formal channels increased exponentially at this point of time. Similarly, now to move the informal economy in all our countries more to the formal is digitization. So right now we shouldn't push to get everyone to register with the tax office, get their PAN card, get their VAT, this, that. Let's just get them to open bank accounts right now.
Okay.
Like the vegetable seller. the small mom and pop shop in which we see in all our villages, our towns, our cities, that there are, if you tell them you need to register with PAN, VAT, do this with the government and all this, I will take cash. But if you say you don't need anything, the normal KYC, you give me your Aadhaar card or your identity card and this, that, and all that, we'll open your account. Whatever transactions you do here in this little shop of yours, up to whatever, 1 lakh, 2 lakh rupees a month, you can put into your personal account, no problem. Right. Then that will start to come into the formal economy. That can be done digitally. He doesn't have to touch cash. He's so happy. Banks can come out with systems whereby you say, whatever you do with QR, this much percentage we will give you back, just like with credit card as a cashback, sort of some incentive like that. So once we do this, we can bring more of the informal economy into the formal economy. And this will be a huge step, like demonetization in India. When that happened, with Paytm and everyone that came in, suddenly a lot of transactions started to come in through the banking sector, which was never there in the banking sector. Now you run around, you buy an ice cream, you can pay with Paytm. You buy a small pan also, you can pay with Paytm. That's the sort of thing that we need to see, because as I said, the backbone of the economy is the SME sector. And I think that is true for many South Asian countries. But the SME sector is not in the formal sector. A large portion of the SME sector is outside the formal sector. And we need to bring them now into the formal sector, not for taxation purposes, not for any other purposes, but through digitization, we can bring them just to enhance the efficiency of the economy. If we get more of the economy into the banking sector, then there's more funds for loans, for development, for capital expenditure, for all sorts of things. Not only for taxation, it's not only to bring them in so that we can tax them. That's a secondary thing that can happen 5 years later or whenever things stabilize a little bit. So that's why it's not only possible for the banking sector. We need to work with the government. We need to work with the FNCCI, CNI, the chambers of the private sector. So if we all work together, I think we can take this as a huge opportunity to move through digitalization, the informal economy into the formal sector.
Can you give some kind of estimate of how much additional investment Nepal will be able to draw once, after a couple of years, once this digital has enrolled a huge percentage of the population? And are there any sectors that you think are ripe for such investments?
I think, before the COVID also and after the COVID, South Asia will be energy starved. We need energy to exponentially enhance our development, to catch up with the world and to catch up with the rest of the neighborhood, maybe even. And that energy, one of the main sources of energy is hydro. And that is the main resource that Nepal has. And so the large scale investment coming in will be in hydro projects. And it makes logical sense for investment to come in from the neighborhood, from India, from Bangladesh, which will be the major purchasers of this power. So I can see large companies like the Tatas or the Reliance Group or others looking at Nepal to set up a large hydro project from which they themselves will import the power which they need for their factories in India as well. So they dump it into the India grid at some point and pick it up from the India grid in Jamshedpur or wherever they require it. So I think that sort of investment on the hydro sector I see. And also, of course, a continuum will happen. Things will go back to normal. People will travel again, is in tourism. Because Nepal is where the world wants to come. And I think the world, only India and China, the people of India and China want to come to Nepal to make their holidays. We don't need anyone else from anywhere else in the world. And with Pashupatinath here, Lumbini, the birthplace of Gautam Buddha here, and so many other things that are there, from traditional religious tourism to adventure sports to everything is here. So I think the other investment that I will see is in tourism. But then the large scale for employment generation, unlike hydro, tourism is a big employment generator. And the second one, along with tourism, is agriculture that I see. We will need investment in agriculture, but it is not the traditional agriculture. We will need investment in agriculture to produce agricultural produce that can be exported, not only to India, but to the Middle East and to other Europe and to other countries as well, because Nepal has a charm for herbs, maybe for mushrooms, for fruits. So, the orange and the apples that are grown in the Himalayas, the tea, the coffee that is grown over here, if we brand it correctly, it will have a huge value addition in a market worldwide. And that's where I see the next leap happening. It's not that the Nepalese who come back are going to go back and again do tomatoes and carrots and cucumbers and rice and corn. We'll do that, but a lot of it will be completely different sort of agriculture and large scale agriculture cooperatives. And that is where I see the economy going forward.
So briefly describe the highlights of your digital transformation in the last 3 to 6 months. What were the guiding parameters? Was it efficiency? Was it security? Was it um, enrolling new customers who were not tech savvy, who were not tech literate? How did you plan your digital journey? I mean, it's not something you can copy paste from anywhere in the world. You have to create
Yeah.
your own journey.
As I said, I think we have to give a lot of credit to coronavirus, COVID, and the lockdown that made our plans sort of truncated them and brought them in much faster than we thought they would come. So what Nabil did is we said this is not a fad, this is not a short-term thing, this is not a transaction, this is a long-term reality for us now, digitization and going forward with corona, post-corona, and going forward. And so for that we put it all together in digibank. And with digibank now we have, as I said, internal and external, and a vision going forward. What I see now is in terms of the digital philosophy of a bank, it's very much like the risk appetite of a bank. Not all banks in Nepal will have the same digital vision and digital policy and philosophy. Each bank will have its own. Ours is very much focused on making digital the next growth engine for the bank. You know, Nepal, Nabil Bank is the oldest joint venture bank in Nepal. We've been here for now 36 years. So we want to now, for the next 36 years, start this digital revolution in Nepal. So it is not an evolution, but a revolution that we are doing. Not just trying to put one or two things together, but we want to slowly change so that Nabil Digibank becomes the largest portion of the bank. You know, we will have some branches, but majority of people, of our customers, will be doing everything digitally. That is the vision statement that we have. And for that, we have some quick wins that we want to put into place. We have some medium-term implementation plans, and then of course, some long-term visions whereby we see Digibank being the main catalyst of Nabil Bank itself. So what we need to also realize is what does our customers' level of development on digital also. If we bring some products that are doing very well in Australia, they may not work here because our customers are not ready for it. We need to dipstick all the time to see what is it that the customer requires. As I said, QR is something that I think we can really push in the customers, because like in India, in most places in Nepal, we have small businesses all over the place. And if small businesses stop using cash and go digital, then the bottom of the pyramid, each one of them may be only giving 10,000, 5,000 rupees, 7,000 rupees, doesn't matter. But all put together, we're talking of arabs of rupees that are now going to be coming into the banking sector. But we have to make it worth their while. It cannot just be, we have this product here, take it. They will not. And if you say credit card for them, they will not take a credit card because there's a service fee, merchant service fee they have to put a POS machine, there's a connectivity issue, there's that, all these sort of things. No, we don't want to do that. But this thing is nothing. You just hang it around your neck, the person just zaps it and comes right on your phone. Okay, that amount has been credited, safe and sound, wonderful. So we need to have digital solutions as right now, which the customers is willing to accept and meets a customer need. If we keep telling them, don't come to the branch, don't come to the branch, we need to make the situation, the ecosystem, the environment such that they don't have to come to the branch. And then the people who go to the branch, others will be saying, why are you going to the branch? You can do everything on the phone. There's no need to go to the branch. And if they have to do 10 things to do with a bank, and of those 10 things, 7 things they can do out of of the branch, 7, 8 things they can do from the phone itself, then we move towards the digital. So we have a digital under DigiBank, a long-term vision, a medium-term, and a short-term quick wins vision. Just like I said, survival, revival, growth. And the amazing part of this digital is Corona lockdown doesn't really matter. In fact, it is a boon for us. As long as people are locked down, they're more keen to use digital solutions. So right now, this is the greatest opportunity that we've seen, these 90 days to do our homework, to launch these things, and to move forward. And in doing this, we are very fortunate that we have our core banking system is Infosys, Finacle by Infosys. So that is a solid system, not only used in South Asia, but around the world by banks. And along with that, now to move our digital paradigm to a larger scale, we have also tied up with Huawei, who have these great fintech solutions that they are in Europe, in Far East Asia, all over the world in banks are using it. So we're trying to see how we can use those to exponentially increase our digital reach, our digital services, not only to in Nepali benchmark or South Asian benchmark, but to international benchmarks as well.
I want to close with one final question. Many of the examples you gave about digitalization pertain to payments. I'm also curious to know how you see financial deepening happening through digital means. A more variety of saving products, a more increase in savings, more increase in relevant loans. more increase in mutual funds, in insurances. I'm sure your bank is also selling a variety of third-party products. How do you see financial deepening happening among your customers through the digital? Do you have a roadmap for that?
Yeah, for that, you see, our regulator is quite stringent. So we're not even allowed to sell insurance in banks in Nepal right now. So we used to have bank insurance, but even that is stopped. So third-party sales is quite limited due to regulatory reasons, not due to the lack of our imagination or ability to do it.
Okay.
But we are now motivating our regulator also that we need to. So just very recently, we are reading in the press that our parliament is going to allow banks to do brokerage business. I think our central bank is going to allow us to do insurance business in a certain manner going forward as well. As you said, we need to use digital now to enhance the savings rate in Nepal is very low, one of the lowest in South Asia, I think, in fact. So we need to see how we can use digital to be the catalyst to get people to start savings. For instance, the person who sells vegetables on a bicycle doesn't have an account, but now he has a reason to have an account. And once he has an account, if he earns 500 rupees a day, he's not going to take all 500 out. He may take 200 out, he may take 300 out, some amount will stay, he'll start to have the savings culture will start to slowly develop from the bottom of the pyramid. Similarly, Nepal is a terrain, with our terrain, it's impossible to have branches everywhere. But through digital now, there are women's cooperatives, which are very, very successful in Nepal, all over the hills and mountains of Nepal. So these women cooperatives now can be in touch with the financial institutions digitally. With digital, we have already, with the partners that we've got, we're already putting into place where we will be doing financial literacy digitally. Again, because everybody already has a phone, and you tell them that we're going to tell you how to make more money from the money you have, everybody is interested. Everybody is interested, and obviously we tell them at that level about derivatives and mutual funds, they're not interested. But if you tell them about, how you can actually use your money better to do goat farming or fish farming or some agriculture or any sort of little industry that they're going to do, they will be very interested in that sort of advice. And we can now do it digitally. That's why I really believe that it's not only about banking, it's about increasing the entire size of the pie now. Before we used to have a small pie, we used to cut it up differently, try to steal the pie from each other. Now it's about thinking of pies we don't even have. And once we do that, I think we're playing in a different game altogether.
Okay, that's fantastic, Anil. I think you, your bank, your country, Nepal, has a good future ahead. I just hope all of you keep it going. I'll come there someday. I visited once. I'd like to come by again whenever things settle down. So all the best to you, to your team, to your citizens, to your country members, and to this new economy that is very likely that is actually coming at all these countries in the South Asian region. I think there's a common kind of opportunity for all this South Asia. It's been a pleasure talking to you, Anil. Thank you for all the insights, and all the best once again. Thank you from Banking Frontiers.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the opportunity, and I look forward to welcoming you in Nepal. Thank you so much.